Thanks for downloading the Martial Secrets podcast with martial artists and authors, Lawrence Kane and Chris Wilder. Now here are Lawrence and Chris.
Welcome to Martial Secrets. I'm Lawrence Kane.
I'm Chris Wilder, and today on Martial Secrets we have what, Lawrence?
Don't write that book.
The next thing is Slow is Fast.
Chemo's Hawaiian Rules.
And Deacon Jones, which is like the coolest name ever.
Yeah, isn't it?
It is. Let's talk about Don't Write That Book. Lawrence, I'm going to ask you a real simple question. I'm Joe Schmo, and I come up and I say to you, I'm going to write a martial arts book. What are two things you're going to tell me?
Before or after I start laughing?
Oh, come on, man. It's my dream.
It's your dream. All right. So, I mean, in all seriousness, if I were to pull just two things off the top of my head. First one is original content. Provide something that hasn't been done a billion times before. So, you know, the books in the 50s and the 60s and even the 70s were, you know, make a fist thus and such.
Oh, the Bruce Tegner books, man. I love those things.
I mean, and granted, at the time it was leading edge, right? But there's 6 bazillion of those out there today. So do original content. And then the second thing I say is don't make it about you, right? This is not the self-aggrandizement thing. This is not the worship me, I am master such and thus.
Well, don't make it about your teacher either.
Or your right, or your style, or unless your teacher was Bruce Lee or somebody that's a household name. Maybe that's an exception.
What there's about 3 people that I would have any interest in. You know, I mean, well, like if somebody wrote a book and said this is my experience learning under Funakoshi, I'm in.
Yeah.
But if this is my experience of learning with Grandmaster Schweenwacker, I'm not interested.
Well, you don't know Grandmaster Schweenwacker?
No, I don't.
Well, I don't either. So, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, don't make it something that, you know, one of the challenges to martial arts is already a niche, right? And it's a niche of a niche, really. And if you get very style specific, that's an even smaller piece. And so the more narrow you get, the narrower your audience, the less likely anybody's going to pay you for it but your own students or whatever. And then only because you made them.
And your relatives expect a free copy.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Right. So that would be my 2 off the top of your head things. Come up with some original content and make it broadly applicable and not self-aggrandizing.
I agree. The love of the art doesn't necessarily transfer well onto paper or Kindle or whatever platform you want to put it on there. I can find the basics anywhere. I have new students
for free.
Yeah, I have students that come in and say, "Hey, do you have anything on how to tie this karate belt?" It's like, go to YouTube.
Yeah, well, exactly. There's so much free content out there that you're not only competing with free content. It's also a matter of your time, right? I mean, if you're going to spend the effort to write a book, takes a good book, including editing and all that. Just writing the manuscript and getting it polished is about a year for most people. It can be longer than that. By the time it's published, depending on how you go about doing it, you're talking 2 to 3 years. You know, it's a big investment. Make an investment that people are going to get excited about and want to use. I mean, 95% of all books ever written sell less than 5,000 copies.
And fill up garages because I got
the author.
Yeah, because I have the author. Yeah, because I got a great deal. I think that's really the 2 questions that I had asked somebody is what are you going to write about, and tell me how you're going to give this information to me in a way that I have never seen before. Because anybody that's been involved in the martial arts, I don't care what art it is. I don't care if it's Balintawak or Aikido or Kendo or, you know, Savate or boxing. At a certain point, everybody realizes that there's a certain grind aspect to it.
Right.
You just have to be disciplined, and you start to find those little nuggets of joy and so forth. And those are they're almost ineffable. They're so hard to communicate. And so when you talk about the joy that you may experience afterwards or whatever it might be, it's really, really tough. Well,
the only people who can relate to it are people who are already doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, a lot of times maybe another way to say it is, if you get tactical, everybody's experienced that before. So you need to raise it up a higher level, something that is broadly applicable, that people can make their own. So, Way of Kata being an example of that, right? Where we took rules and principles of kata that anybody can use who does kata, which is not everyone in the martial arts, but it's a large portion of them. Right?
Did we just experience shameless self-promotion?
Actually, that was not my intent, but I suppose it could be looked at that way.
It was self-promotion, but it wasn't quite shameless.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so ashamed. No, I was just trying to use that as an example of the, if we tied it just to Goju-Ryu or just to some narrow scope, then, it'd be far less interesting to folks, right?
What's interesting about that, though, is that even though we specifically made the effort, because we both practice Goju-Ryu, but karate, we wanted to make sure that this was accessible to any style of karate, right?
Or even kung fu.
Yeah, sure. There's some things you might be able to get out of that. Yeah, absolutely. But even though we acknowledge that we are Goju-Ryu karate practitioners and that we have made an effort to make this accessible to everybody, there are still people who say, well, I don't do Goju-Ryu, so I don't. And it's like, no, man, you're missing the point.
Well, yeah.
Of
course. But you know what? The cool thing about that work or others that are broadly applicable is, yeah, there'll be some people who never look at it, big deal. But look at it conversely, the broader the applicability, the more people will actually come to it, use it, tell their friends about it, and they'll use it, right? Part of let's put it another way. Neither one of us has ever made a hell of a lot of money writing books. We do it because we want the information to get out there, right? We enjoy it.
Don't share that. My parents might be listening.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Or I might wind up being a Ferengi and isolated to my cabin for being involved in a non-profitable adventure.
Let me say this: if you want to get rich writing a book, you better be real good and real lucky.
There's a lot of luck involved. Yeah, there is. If you're gonna be. But anyway, point is this: two key points is don't write about yourself, don't write about your style, and secondly,
find original content that's broadly applicable, something that people haven't seen before over and over, and that is more. You don't have to be totally strategic and not tactical at all, but it has to be broad enough that folks can resonate with it and find a way to make it their own.
And I'll say this too, is that if you apply those two things to your project, you're going to find that you're actually going to grow in the writing experience. You're actually going to become more versed and intelligent in what you're trying to espouse.
Right. It's much harder to write at the higher level, right? Because we know the tactical, punch here, bend there, breathe this way, whatever. Anybody who's been doing martial arts for quite a while knows that stuff, and so it's really easy to explain it. To explain, unifying principles, themes, that sort of stuff, that's really hard. And that's why folks like Rory Miller do so well, because he's able to take these really, really complex things, boil them down to simple, direct language, and have people look at it and go, I kind of knew that, but I really didn't know it like that.
Yeah, no question. And so to put a bow on this, if you want to read about, now talking about promotion,
now this part would be shameless self-promotion.
This part is shameless self-promotion, but it is free. If you go to chriswilder.com, that's KRISWILDER.com, you can find actually our free downloadable PDF, Don't Write That Book. And I want to also make something really clear. You don't have to sign up for anything. You don't give your name. You don't give your email address. You don't give anything. We have put it out there for free with no strings attached. Go take it if you want it. In fact, all of our PDFs are that way. You simply can come and get them. You don't have to enter into any system. You don't have to put your name, your number, nothing. It's free. Go take it. Lawrence, slow is fast.
You know, I'm sure you have a very logical explanation for that, but I don't know what you're talking about, man.
You're right, because I got it wrong. What I wanted to say was slow is smooth, but smooth is fast.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm grooving with you now.
See how I used that to kind of bring you into the subject?
You did.
Jar you loose just a little bit?
There you go.
Yeah. Slow is smooth. I'm going to take a minute and talk about how I do that in the Karate Dojo. Lawrence, you're going to take a minute and explain how you do it when you're shooting.
Okay.
When you're practicing your shooting. But in the Karate school, what I tell people is that form comes first, speed and power, and it's in that order. And I don't know it to be in another order. So when you're
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, when you're moving slowly, it gives you a chance to audit the technique and to actually start to build the physiological memory of the technique before you really get going fast. All the young guys, they want to go fast. They want to go fast. Right. They want to go fast. That's why they pay larger insurance premiums for their driver's insurance.
There you go.
We all know that.
But you know, that doesn't apply just to karate. That applies to any physical skill. I mean, if you look at like the National Football Academy and the way they teach quarterbacks how to throw, it starts real slow. That every single body mechanic is done very specifically in a way that you can self-audit, so that once you've done it long enough, you find that you can't do it incorrectly. Same thing with karate, same thing with anything, right? I mean, if you don't start slow and get it exactly right, when you speed up, it's just going to go to hell.
Oh, it flies to flinders. So when I teach that slow is smooth, because we want the movement to be smooth, because eventually smooth becomes fast.
Very fast, yes.
So if I'm shooting, how does smooth become fast?
So there's a lot of different, let's use a pistol, just make an easy example. So there's so many things that can go wrong when you're using a weapon. And I'm not talking about accidents stuff. I'm talking about just missing, right? It could be pulling the trigger incorrectly. It could be using the sights incorrectly. It could be any piece of the motion, right? And so when you're it's almost like doing kata if you train it, at least the way that I do, where you're working on how do you draw the weapon, how do you deploy the weapon, how do you bring the sight picture online quickly, how do you pull the trigger in a way that doesn't throw your aim off, etc., etc. And if you break it down, you can do I think I've talked about before the dime drill, where you're doing the motion of once the gun is already out, you're aiming it and pulling the trigger with a dime sitting on top of the weapon, and this is done with an empty weapon that's been checked and all the safety things, so that you can see if you're jerking the gun, the dime falls off. Then when you get really good at it, you do it with a ball bearing on top. And the idea is just to be as smooth as possible to acquire the target, to press the trigger, to do your breathing, to do your movement, and do it in a way that nothing's, bouncing around, jittery, anything that's going to throw off your accuracy. And that's got to be done, obviously, pretty slowly. But what I've noticed is that most of the time when I go to a range, I go to a stationary range where you've got a lane that you need to be in, and they don't allow you to draw from a holster. You're just, pick it up, aim, fire, aim again, fire, whatever, right? And that's pretty cool. But when you go to a tactical range, where you're allowed to move and shoot at the same time, you can really tell if you've learned stuff well or not, and you can really see the benefit of smooth, because smooth means you're taking away any extraneous movement, and you become vastly more efficient.
The thing that happens on the dojo floor is that people will start to lose their technique when they start moving fast. Their elbow will fly out. They'll go to sort of these innate animal motions, which aren't necessarily always conducive to generating power.
I see it with sparring all the time.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, we can't even go down that rabbit hole because I will get lost. I'll pull out what hair I have and fling myself onto the desk and onto the ground. But the thing that is so difficult to convey is that if you go slow at first, that you're going to get smooth, and smooth is fast. So I've developed a little thing with that, and that is I make them take all of the power out, everything. I mean, I just tell them, be noodles, get loose and follow this pattern, and then I break it down and I make it very, very small. And when it becomes small and slow, it actually becomes so far removed from what they thought they were doing that they lose that desire to go fast. And it really works with the young guys because it gets small, it gets very slow, and they start to become bored. And when they're bored, they're not paying attention, but they're still doing the movement. And I'm able to kind of put my proverbial camel nose under the tent there into their brain, and then I can begin to operate. And when I come back and I go, hey, look, man, you started going fast and you're losing your technique here. Do you see? Look in the mirror. See what's happening right here? Oh, yeah. So I'm able to actually take them back, and they can refer to something that happened in their body. So that's the way that I approach it.
Nice.
Is just get it small, take them away from almost completely associating with it, and so that they don't understand it to be a punch anymore. They understand it to just be keep your elbow down, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's really good advice. One of the other things you can add on to that is have them also do it really, really tense. Tighten everything down and try to do it and see how slow that actually makes. Because a lot, especially younger guys, they think that hard equals everything's tense. And how many times you can say hit a makawara or a bag or something when you're tense as opposed to when you're just relaxed and the difference that makes.
Oh yeah, clearly.
This is MartialSecrets.com.
I want to talk about Deacon Jones. Deacon Jones played for the Los Angeles Rams, although his number 75 has been retired by the St. Louis Rams after they moved there. But Deacon Jones was, in fact, he just died this last year. He was absolutely an incredible defensive end for the National Football League. And his big thing was getting to the quarterback. And the way that he got to the quarterback was he used a technique that's now outlawed because it was so dang efficient, and it was a head slap.
Yep. And
sometimes in the martial arts, we sort of walk away from the head slap with the attitude that it's a slap. A slap, at least in our culture, if I slapped you in the face in public, what would I be saying to everybody?
Oh, yeah. First of all, it's probably game on. But beyond that, it's I have no love, interest in you. I spit in your face. I mean, it's
right.
Just,
absolutely.
It's a pond scum.
Right. And that's the psychological perspective that we have. But if you change that perspective for a moment, and so stay with me as we change perspective. Look at it as an actual powerful technique. And now it starts turning into something completely different. Deacon Jones was so effective with the head slap that they had to outlaw it because he was ringing guys' bells through
their helmet.
Through their helmet, right? And I like his quote, and you can go find it on YouTube if you want, but I'm going to read it to you. And it says here that the head slap was designed, and this is the quote, to give myself an initial head start on the pass rush. In other words, an extra step. Because anytime you go upside a man's head, comma, or woman, they may have a tendency to blink their eyes and close or close their eyes, and that's all I needed. I like the part about where he inserted the going upside a woman's head. I think we could have gone without that. I think he was just trying to be inclusive, but probably not the best idea. The thing is that in Japanese it's hipataku,
Yeah.
That's the Japanese word for slap. And man, if you go take a look in your kata, you're going to see that there are places where that slap comes in all the time. People will say things like, oh, you slap the hand out of the way, or you push the arm, and these look like places where slap can be. Slap doesn't necessarily always need to go to the head, but let me tell you something. A flat hand right into your ear, that's a neurological strike. That's like a grenade going off on the side of your head.
Absolutely. In fact, I have seen personally guys in gear. I don't remember which version of gear it was, but it's the big padded suit with the helmet and all that sort of stuff. Not the Bullet Man suit with the massive padding, but like a regular, sparring gear kind of. I think it was a Red Man suit, but I can't remember because it wasn't red. Because somebody had either colored it or it was some other brand. But anyway, point is, I've seen a guy take the slap to the head through the helmet and just drop people. I mean,
it's a powerful technique.
Like as in, I'm done for the day, end of seminar kind of drop people.
Yeah, so if you're out there and you're looking for a little something to train, kind of an interesting trail to go chase, go chase the Hippotaku. Go chase the Deacon Jones head slap. Go find it in your kata. Go take it to the heavy bag. Have a lot of fun with it because, man, you're gonna find that is showing up all over the place.
Oh, it's very useful. It's very powerful, and frankly, you don't even need all that much skill to do it. Go slap a wall and see what it does to your hand, and then think about pushing your knuckles into the wall. I'm not going to say punch the wall because somebody will come back and get mad when they break their hand, but feel the difference. You can slap the wall pretty hard. You can punch the wall not so much. So. It's real useful in a lot of ways.
Lawrence, I was fiddling around on the intrawebs, or whatever they call it, and
what do those youngsters call it nowadays?
Yeah, and I found this little thing, and I can't tell you where I found it. It's just really cool, and it's called Kimo's Hawaiian Rules, and I don't know, there's a dozen of them maybe or something like that, but I just looked at him and I kind of went, that's a pretty good little attitude. It's not overthinking stuff. It's just kind of clean. It's sort of gentle and it's fun. So I'll tell you what, why don't we read these out to the listeners and we'll just alternate because we want to share. But why don't you go ahead and take us in on the first one?
So the first one is, never judge a day by the weather. The best things in life aren't things.
Well, that's number 2. I got that one. The best things in life aren't things.
Yeah. You know what? They were the way you wrote it. I thought it was 2 things. So, but you know what? They go together nicely.
Yeah. Why don't you read this one?
Tell the truth. There's less to remember.
Yeah,
I love that.
This one is actually pretty fun. It speak softly and wear a loud shirt. That's Hawaiian.
That is Hawaiian. I like that. Goals are deceptive. The unaimed arrow never misses.
Yeah, and here's the next one. He who dies with the most toys still dies.
Yeah. Age is relative. When you're over the hill, you pick up speed.
And the next one. There are 2 ways to be rich. Make more or desire less.
That's actually pretty profound. I like that. Beauty is internal. Looks mean nothing.
Yeah. And then the last one is no rain, no rainbows. So there you go. Thanks for listening to
Kimo's Hawaiian Rules.
Yeah, Kimo's Hawaiian Rules. Thanks for listening to Martial Secrets. We appreciate your listening and taking the time out of your day to do so. We hope that you find value in the podcast and that, it makes your day a little bit better. Lawrence, if anybody wants to send you an email and praise you for the extraordinary job that you've done, how would they do that?
Oh, I think this is the first time you've ever done that in a positive. So, L-A-Kane, L-A-K-A-N-E, at ix.netcom.com. L-A-Kane at ix.netcom.com. That is me.
And you can reach me, Chris Wilder, at westseattlekarate.com, or you can go to chriswilder.com. You can email me through the website there. Either one works fine. And
we should probably add that we actually respond to every email that we get. If you don't hear back, you probably got caught in a spam blocker or something. So, if you try to get a hold of one of us and you don't hear anything, send to the other one. But we really do take your feedback seriously. We do incorporate into the shows, and we do appreciate your listening.
Oh, yeah. We do our absolute best try to respond to everybody. So if we didn't respond to you, I'm going to blame you.
Okay, I'll blame you. So we're good.
Yeah, very good. All right. Thanks again for listening.
Be safe, everyone.
And be well.
This country's taken some hits lately. But when we get hit and are down, we don't stay down. We get up and we hit back with our fists or our nunchucks. And then, when we're done hitting and we're tired, because nunchucking can wear a guy out, we sit down on a couch, an American couch, a Couch Town couch.